Poor boy is humiliated in school, but years later shocks everyone upon his return. It was a cold, grey morning when Jack arrived at school for the first time. His shoes were worn out, his pants patched, and his shirt, faded by time, reflected his mother's daily struggle to keep them presentable. He came from a humble family, barely having enough to put food on the table. At school, Jack encountered a hostile environment filled with prejudice. The other students, children of wealthy and influential parents in the town, quickly noticed the differences. Murmurs spread through the hallways, muffled laughter echoed in corners, and disdainful glances were constant. Jack tried to focus on his studies, knowing that education was the only way out of the cycle of poverty. One morning during math class, the teacher called Jack to the board to solve a complicated equation. Despite his nervousness, Jack solved the problem with ease, surprising even the teacher. However, instead of receiving praise, he was met with more ridicule. "Look at that, the poor kid can do math," shouted Mark, the class leader, drawing laughter from his classmates. Jack felt his face burn with shame but remained firm. The determination in his eyes did not go unnoticed by the teacher, who, despite not intervening directly, began to pay more attention to the boy. Days passed, and Jack continued to be a target of humiliation. However, he never retaliated. He stored each insult as fuel for his desire to rise above his reality. Time went by, and Jack graduated with honors. He decided to leave the small town in search of opportunities. In a distant metropolis, with the support of scholarships and hard work, Jack studied engineering at one of the country's best universities. His determination and intelligence made him stand out, and soon he was among the top students in his class. Jack never forgot his roots. During his college years, he worked various jobs to support himself, from waiter to pizza delivery boy. Each job was another step towards his dream. Even in the toughest situations, he remembered the humiliations at school and his desire to show that he was capable of much more. After graduation, Jack received a job offer from a major tech company. Within a few years, he rose through the ranks, becoming one of the most respected engineers in his field. His technological innovations were recognized internationally, and he began giving lectures and seminars worldwide. Despite his success, Jack kept a low profile. He didn't flaunt his wealth, but made sure to help the community he came from. He funded scholarships, renovated schools, and invested in social projects. However, one matter still troubled him: returning to his hometown and facing those who had scorned him. The opportunity to return arose when he was invited to give a lecture at the local university. Jack knew that many of his former classmates would be there, including the teacher who had silently believed in him. It was the perfect moment to confront his past. On the day of the lecture, the auditorium was packed. Many were eager to hear from the renowned engineer who had left their town years ago with no great prospects. Jack walked onto the stage with firm steps, his heart racing but his gaze resolute. He began to talk about his journey, the challenges he faced and the achievements he attained. When he mentioned the school, the memories of humiliation came flooding back, but he turned them into a lesson of resilience and perseverance. "I remember clearly the days when I was ridiculed for being poor," Jack said firmly. "But it was precisely that adversity that made me fight harder and harder." The looks in the audience varied. Some were full of admiration, others were embarrassed. Mark, the former class leader, was there, sitting in the front row, now a grown man but with a look lost in the past. When the lecture ended, a line formed to greet Jack. Among handshakes and words of encouragement, he reunited with the math teacher, now retired. His eyes shone with pride. "I always knew you would go far, Jack," the teacher said, shaking his hand firmly. "You had something special, a flame that couldn't be extinguished." Jack smiled, grateful. But the most awaited moment was yet to come. Mark, visibly nervous, approached. There was no longer any arrogance in his demeanor, just a look of remorse. "Jack, Mark stammered, searching for words. "I was a jerk in school. I did things I deeply regret." Jack took a deep breath. The feeling of resentment he had carried for years slowly dissipated. "Mark, we all make mistakes. The important thing is to learn from them and become better people," Jack said, offering a sincere smile. Mark seemed relieved, and a cordial conversation began. They reminisced about their school days, now with a different perspective. Jack realized that Mark had also faced difficulties, though of a different kind. The pressure to maintain a status his family could no longer sustain had shaped his arrogant attitude. That night, Jack felt finally at peace. The wounds of the past began to heal with forgiveness and understanding. He knew that his mission was not only to build bridges of technology, but also to build bridges of empathy and compassion. As months passed, Jack returned to his hometown more often. He became actively involved in community projects, using his resources and knowledge to improve the local infrastructure. He organized motivational talks in schools, offering guidance and support to young people who, like him, dreamed of a better future. During one of these visits, Jack reconnected with Anna, a childhood friend who had also been bullied in school. Anna was now a dedicated teacher, and together they decided to create a mentoring program for low-income students. The project grew rapidly, attracting volunteers and donations. Every day, Jack saw the fruits of his labor. Students began to believe in themselves, inspired by his story. The results were evident: better grades, more students entering universities, and a more united community. At a ceremony to inaugurate a new science lab at the school, Jack was surprised by a tribute. The school decided to name the lab in his honor, recognizing his contribution and positive impact. "Jack, you are living proof that dreams can come true with determination and courage," said the school principal during the speech. "Your journey inspires us all to be better." Years passed and Jack continued to expand his horizons, always carrying the memory of where he came from. One spring morning, he received an unexpected call. It was an offer to take a leadership role in a prestigious international technology organization, an opportunity few received. After careful consideration, Jack accepted the challenge, knowing he could do even more for innovation and humanity. He moved to a new city, where his influence and groundbreaking ideas quickly stood out. However, he never forgot his small hometown and the lessons of humility and resilience he had learned there. In his new position, Jack proposed global projects aimed at technological inclusion in underserved communities around the world. He believed that technology should be a bridge to opportunities, not a barrier. At an international conference, Jack presented an innovative initiative that provided access to digital education in remote regions. His lecture received a standing ovation, and he was praised for his vision and commitment to equality. After the presentation, a young man approached him, tears in his eyes. "Mr. Jack, your story inspires me deeply. I also come from a poor community, and hearing about your journey gives me hope. Thank you for fighting for us." Jack smiled, touched by the young man's words. He saw in his eyes the same flame that once burned inside him, the flame of hope, courage, and determination. While Jack was immersed in his new projects, he received news that brought him back to the past. The old school, where everything had started, was facing a severe financial crisis and was at risk of closing its doors. Without hesitation, Jack decided to intervene. He gathered old classmates and community members to discuss ways to save the school. They launched a fundraising campaign, and Jack used his influence to attract significant donations. They organized charity events, and the community's response was overwhelming. During a large charity event held in the school gymnasium, Jack took the stage to speak. He looked at the audience and saw familiar faces, but this time there were no disdainful glances, only gratitude. "This school gave me much more than academic knowledge," and Jack said, moved. "It was here that I learned the value of perseverance and compassion. And that's why I'm here today, to ensure that future generations have the same opportunities." The campaign was a success, and the school not only survived, but also received significant improvements to its infrastructure. New labs, libraries, and extracurricular programs were implemented, transforming it into a center of excellence. The community celebrated the school's reopening with a big party. Jack was the guest of honor, and as he walked through the newly renovated hallways, he felt a mix of nostalgia and pride. He knew that the institution now symbolized hope and opportunity for many. During the celebration, Jack reunited with old friends and teachers. Among them was Mrs. Clara, the janitor who had always treated him with kindness and respect. She hugged him with tears in her eyes. "I always knew you would do something great, Jack. Your heart is as big as your intelligence," she said. Emotional. Jack smiled, feeling truly blessed by all the people who had supported him throughout his journey. He knew that each small act of kindness had contributed to the man he had become. In the midst of the party, a group of students approached him, eager to take a photo and hear his words. Jack felt honored and took the opportunity to share some of his wisdom. Never let anyone tell you that you can't achieve something. Use every obstacle as a step to reach your dreams. Believe in yourselves always. The school's success and the community's gratitude brought Jack a sense of fulfillment he had never imagined. But life still had surprises for him. At an international conference, he met Laura, a renowned scientist with an equally inspiring journey. They both shared the same passion for innovation and equality. The connection between them was immediate. Laura had grown up in an orphanage and fought hard to carve out her place in the scientific world. Their stories of overcoming obstacles and dedication united them deeply. The relationship blossomed, and soon they became partners not only in their personal lives but also in global projects. Together, they founded an organization dedicated to bringing technology and education to underserved communities in various countries. The combination of their skills and experiences resulted in transformative initiatives that impacted thousands of lives. During a visit to a small village in Africa, Jack and Laura witnessed the impact of their work. Children who previously had no access to education could now learn and dream of a better future. The smiles and gratitude in the eyes of those they helped were the greatest reward they could receive. Time passed and Jack and Laura's organization continued to grow, touching lives worldwide. Jack's story, the poor boy who overcame humiliation and hardships, became a legendary inspiration. His journey showed that with determination, courage, and a generous heart, anyone could change the world. One peaceful morning, many years later, Jack received a letter from the school where it all began. It was an invitation to be honored at a special ceremony. He smiled as he read the letter, feeling a wave of emotions. He knew that moment would be the perfect closure to a cycle that had started so long ago. At the ceremony, the auditorium was packed. Old classmates, teachers, friends, and community members were present to celebrate Jack's life. He walked onto the stage, emotional, and looked at the audience. He saw familiar and unfamiliar faces, all united by a feeling of admiration and gratitude. Today, I am not here just as Jack, the successful engineer, he began. I am here as Jack, the boy who never stopped dreaming, who found strength in adversity, and who believes in the power of education and compassion. Warm applause echoed through the auditorium. Jack continued, sharing his reflections on the importance of believing in oneself and never forgetting one's roots. When he finished, the ovation was deafening. Mark, now a changed man and a great friend, was the first to hug him. Others followed, and Jack felt a deep sense of accomplishment and peace. His journey had inspired many, but he knew there was still much to be done. Back on stage, he looked at the audience one last time and with a smile said, "This is not just my story. It is the story of all of us who believe in a better world. Let us move forward, always with courage and hope." The ceremony ended, but Jack's legacy continued to live on. He and Laura continued dedicating their lives to noble causes, showing that true greatness lies in the ability to transform lives and spread kindness around the world.